Yeah, hi Jane and Kathy. How are you?
We're
Hi.
doing fine.
You're inside.
Yes,
Why
today.
aren't you out there on the beach?
Well, that was a nice photograph behind me. Hi, Linda.
Hello. Hi, Linda.
Hi.
Yeah.
Well, it's 1 minute to 1, and I just wanted to mention that we'll have to keep this to an hour today since I have to go do other things in the library. I'm scheduled to be on the desk at 2, but we usually end up about 1 hour. So
Yeah, we do.
has everyone seen the new list that we voted on?
Yes.
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 And does everyone know how to get into these? If I forget to email you, like today, I almost forgot.
I do.
Does everyone know? I thought I'd quickly show how to get in. Let me share my screen. This is our library website, DoorCountyLibrary.org.
No, she's just showing us.
Yeah. So you go up to the calendar, and all of the programs are here, and here's ours today. So when you click on that, you'll see our multicultural book group, and all you do is click that link. The link is put up a few days before the program. I see a couple people are here now. Let me add them quickly. And I just want to point out, I hope you will all come to this Green Bay Packer book talk on the 11th. I need support. I'm not too knowledgeable about football, but this will be fun. Tony Walter is.
And we really are.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The link's not up yet, but it will.
Laura, I grew up in Chicago.
No bear. No bear.
There's Donna.
Come and challenge
Oh,
it,
there you
but
are.
Donna.
Donna.
Hi, Donna.
Tony Walter
Hi,
is
Adele.
a sports writer.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, you guys.
Hello, everybody. I'm glad you made it finally, Donna.
Hey, Adele, did you participate in the suffragist parade?
I did.
I thought I saw you.
Nice.
Yeah, I did.
I saw the parade.
My grandmother was a suffragist. I went in her honor.
Oh, nice.
That's fun.
Cool.
Well, let's get started because I do have to cut this off in an hour. So everyone knows now that we had a vote, and all of those books are up on the calendar. If you forget which is which, you can go to the calendar, and they're all already up there. I put them up there with some information on the right dates. So next month we're doing Remarkable Creatures, I believe. And we had voted on that earlier, but postponed it. I hope everyone can find a copy. There are some, in the library itself, although it's not on any of the formats. I hope everyone gets a chance to read the book. I just finished it and I thought it was really interesting. So this book is Julia Alvarez, Afterlife, and I looked in the old list, and this apparently the Multicultural book group, which has been going on well over 20 years, read her earlier book, In the Time of the Butterflies, twice. I don't know quite why that happened, but they read it in 2001, and then we read it again in 2009 when I was pretty new with the group.
Needs to be wrinkled so I don't have to lean over.
Does anyone remember reading that book? Have you been around that long?
That's what I was doing.
Oh, yes, definitely.
And that was
Yes.
the one that she wrote about her homeland, about the dictator in the Dominican Republic who was very ruthless and killed some sisters who were activists. And this book is again about sisters. She seems to write a lot about sisters. She actually has a number of sisters, and the interesting thing is her first book, when her first adult novel, one of the first ones, was how the Garcia girls lost their accents, which she wrote.
Yeah, how the Garcia girls.
Has
Yeah,
anyone
that's good.
read that one?
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. that came out when, 1994 or something like that. And apparently at that time, her mother and her sisters refused to talk to her for a while.
Oh.
Because they were, it was such a personal novel, is what I read. So that kind of reminds me of the one we did recently, the South
Yeah.
Africa, what was her name? South
Yeah.
Africa and,
Yeah, Zimbabwe.
Alexandra Fuller.
yeah, exactly.
Don't know who you mean.
Yeah.
So another woman who
Fuller.
writes personal
Alexandra.
episodes in novels and then her family gets upset. So I think that's kind of interesting. So this one, she actually is now 70 years old. She was born in the United States, but they moved back to the Dominican Republic when she was very young, like a few months old, and then they had to come back to the United States when they were threatened by the dictator. And she spent a lot of her life here. She apparently had some trouble with, she felt she was discriminated against because of her Hispanic heritage in some of the schools she went to. And she then she is married to an eye doctor who does surgery. I don't know what his title is exactly. She really is. So the person in the book is sort of modeled after her real husband. And she has been
Sam.
a professor.
Yeah.
Sam. And she has been a professor of literature too. So she's pretty much writing again, just like with the Garcia girls, a lot about what she knows today. She lives in Vermont too, as I understand it. So what did everyone think? I really found I identified with it as an older person who's trying to adjust to life, being older and lost. What does everyone else?
Weren't they just in their 60s though?
Well,
Older is relative.
Yeah.
Older is
Very
relative.
true.
I wish I were that old.
so that's what you object to, that they weren't old enough.
Yeah.
I think her insights as having just lost her husband, the way she would have talks with herself about what he would say, what he would expect of her, and what she was kind of rebelling on at some point. I thought that was really interesting. I could see doing that. I really could. Yes.
I don't have any sisters, but I have a bunch of brothers who keep telling me what to do. So I can relate to her attitudes towards her siblings and trying to direct her life, because I'm encountering the same thing with some brothers at the moment.
And I have two sisters, and it all echoed to me also.
Oh.
The characters,
I found it well written, compelling, and you just wanted to finish it. And I think I finished it like in a day.
Yeah,
I found
Yeah, it was a fast read.
I agree. It was very well written. I agree with you. I mean, I really liked it.
Well, and to me, there were some things that were rather unexpected.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I kind of figured out, well, she was going to take the girl in, I had different, I thought things were going to end up differently than they did. And I think that's kind of fun to read a book where you don't know exactly what's going to happen.
No, didn't it catch you off guard though? Because I thought it was going to be, just this kind of adventure thing. And then once it got serious, it got extremely serious.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I felt kind of cheated.
Oh.
Because I was I was enjoying it where it was. I didn't think about anybody dying and the bad consequences and everything.
I was blindsided by Izzy's suicide. I had not expected that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was.
And either. I agree.
it was very representative of life,
Yes.
the way life is, that you are blindsided by life.
Yeah.
Cheated.
I think there's a lot of dark themes and, which is it's beautifully written and a lot of lighthearted moments, but everything from immigration to
Right.
suicide to the sudden death of her husband and the grieving process. And there just was so much in it that was heavier, just kind of more serious. So, it wasn't a light read at all, but,
No.
but enjoyable at times. There were some really funny moments. So we love the ringtones that she was, Antonia was church bells,
Church bells.
Yep.
Everybody had ringtones
Oh.
that conveyed who they were, their personality. So very cute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then, of course, her tendency to quote as an author, her tendency to have the appropriate quote every now and then is
as
fun.
an author, and she was a professor also.
Yep. The literary references were marvelous.
Yes.
I may have missed a few of them, but the ones I got were very good.
I kind of like the way it was, it dealt with modern issues such as the immigrant situation with the farmer next door
Yes.
and illegal immigrants.
Mhm.
And a number of the questions I came across in the question list had to do with the fact that she and her sisters seemed very privileged, and they were almost living in real American life where you fuss over little things, while these people who are illegal immigrants are kind of life and death matters right under their noses like that. And she really had to grapple with how she was going to deal with that,
Right.
taking in the illegal immigrants. So anyone have comments on that? I was looking at
I think the book was very representative of real life. And everybody said it was dark, it was light, it was funny, it had ringtones. I just think it was a really well-crafted, compelling work to read. And I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too. I
I
thought it was
saw the four sisters as immigrants made good in the United States, but not all of them were sympathetic to the new immigrants, and that bothered me at some points.
But that's real common, I mean, that's
the way it is.
That's the way it is. I can think of several of my husbands who either their parents or they were the first, generation immigrants, and, they're very, we don't want any more immigrants, kind of thing. It's just kind of interesting. That's sort of the way it goes sometimes. But I thought it was interesting, the whole Roger, here he is, he's kind of exploiting, if you will, these Hispanic workers that come in, and it's just, again, it kind of, I think, shows kind of a darker underbelly of what's going on in our country. That he didn't seem to care one way or the other what happened to these people. And I think Antonia was hearing the voice of Sam and saying, well, this would be something maybe you need to step in. She had kind of relied on Sam, her husband, to kind of encourage her to do good things and to kind of step out a little bit. And with him gone, she was feeling like, she kept hearing that voice that maybe, this is what I need to be doing because he's, kind of guiding her that way. So.
Yeah, I really like Sam.
And then
I noted the fact that it was a dairy
and
industry really brings it almost to what's going on in Door County, I have understood, in that they have many Hispanic employees in some of the dairy farms in Door and Kewaunee County. And so it kind of came home to me that this is a problem going on right here.
I thought the same thing. I thought really Vermont and Wisconsin farms are not that different. We have the same needs, need workers, and workers are not available locally. And yeah, I picked up on that too.
Jean, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, I thought it was interesting at the end that she had Sheriff Boyer basically set everybody free. It was a very, could have turned a very bad moment end, and yet he sent off the other cop and just go on, do what you need to do. So that was interesting.
He liked the Mexican food.
Of characters. She had many characters.
He might have had a crush on Antonia too.
Yeah, I think he had a crush, but he was sympathetic right from the beginning.
Oh, yes. Well, there is that. Yes. Right.
But that kind of ties into the title, The Afterlife. So Sam's Afterlife was because it was there, a lot of the community's respect for Sam that helped her do things, the sheriff's respect for Sam. And so that ties into the title too, that legacy of Sam kind of helped get her through all that too. Yeah.
Yeah, another thing I noticed, contrasting the girls and the immigrants, was she kept saying something about taking care of yourself first. Does anyone remember that? I should have gotten a direct quote, but
absolutely.
Who's more important?
A number of times.
Yeah, it's I sort of have a sense of this American attitude is take care of yourself first, whereas the people that we're trying to deal with, the immigrants were trying to deal with taking care of the community, their community, to try to help everyone get jobs and work and that sort of thing. Did you feel that, or am I the only one who thinks that self-focused?
I interpret that differently because in all the caregiver manuals, and I think in grieving manuals, they all refer to take care of yourself. I know.
Right, I agree too.
That's stressed.
Because unless you've taken care of yourself, you can't take care of others. So that's how I agree. I saw it that way too.
Yeah, I think Oprah made it, kind of famous years ago. She talked about how when you get on an airplane and they talk about if there's an emergency and the oxygen goes down, you're supposed to put it on your oxygen on first before you help your child. And she said that's because you're of no help if you're out of your mind, if your child needs you at that moment. So I think that's very much a part of the American culture, very much.
I also liked the quote that she used a lot, which was, "Let's see what love can do." Either Antonio said it or other people said it. I liked that. That was kind of neat. Let's see what love can do. I like that.
Yeah, I actually read about her, some of the biography about her. She went to a meditation group, and she said there were all sorts of people there from different religions and ethnic groups, and the Quakers would say that, apparently. Some of the Quakers in the meditation group. So that's kind of interesting that's where it comes from.
Well, the meditation group reminds me then of the epilogue where the instructor took the plate and crashed the plate and broke it into pieces.
Smashed it. Yeah.
And then put it back together. I think that was very telling also, with all you could feel all the place where it had been joined back together. That's very cool too. I enjoyed that.
Right. Yeah. Stronger where it was rejoined, I think.
Yeah.
And more beautiful. I actually looked it up on Google. You can do Google images of Japanese repair technique. You see these beautiful bowls that have the gold lining.
Yeah.
Really is much more beautiful than what a plain old bowl would have been.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the cover, I don't know if any of you read the actual physical book, but I think the cover kind of made me think of those cracks, even though the cover is gold and the cracks are brown, but that made me think of that, I guess.
Yeah, and that's probably what it was meant to do, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's a question that I found online. Antonia thinks that should she return to writing, she wants to come in from a deeper hurting place. What does she mean? Why must a creative endeavor come from a painful place? And where is that place located? In the memory, in the psyche, in the soul? In other words, where does creativity come from? And I started thinking a lot about that, and that's really, creativity comes out of emotions instead of logic. Is that what you would interpret it? How you'd interpret it?
Particularly deep emotion.
Yeah. Whereas, then the whole thing of pulling up great literature whenever she felt something, to me is the fact that I agree with her on that. Great literature really is the wisdom of the ages of emotions, in my opinion, as opposed to scientific, literature or something. So it kind of puts two and two together for me, that she feels that that's where you turn for consolation, plus where she wants to turn for inspiration. Does anyone else have a feeling
So
about that?
Wait, Laura, are you saying that creativity comes from emotional pain?
Not necessarily pain, but from the emotions.
Okay, because when I heard that, I thought, then how do you account for children's creativity? I don't think it comes from pain.
Yeah, no, I just think.
So, and joy is an emotion. So what you're saying is that creativity comes from emotion.
Well, I read a book some time ago by Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow. Has anyone else heard of that?
No.
Yeah.
Never left me. He won
I'm
the Nobel
trying.
Prize for economics based on that book, even though he's in psychology. And he really talks about the fast thinking is emotional thinking, and pretty much everything we do is, intuitive thinking. We come to conclusions and then we justify them after the fact based on emotions. And the slow thinking is more like Sherlock Holmes and analytical thinking. So to me, literature is all about the emotions and that fast thinking. And another thing I'll never forget is I used to really like ballet when I was young, and Kelsey Kirkland was a famous New York ballerina who sort of went a little bit insane or had some emotional problems, and she found solace in learning about literature, of all things. So I always keep, feeling, as an English major, I guess, that literature is so important and holds the truth.
Right.
Does anyone else have that kind of feeling? You're all here in this multicultural.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, very much so.
I agree.
I would agree with you.
And haven't there been studies about how reading fiction increases empathy?
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, I put up posters about that. So yeah.
Yeah.
So she's going to try to write from that place, and I think that really captures the wisdom there of what she's trying to do.
Well, sometimes when you read something that seems so flat or just so one-dimensional, and you think to yourself, well, that person really hasn't experienced that, or really hasn't, maybe that's part of it. If you're trying to write about something that you don't feel about, maybe that's part of it. That's why it doesn't come across that way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, does anyone have anything about the book that you especially liked? You said that someone said they felt cheated by is it by the suicide?
No, it's just by the tone of it, that the tone changed so rapidly. I mean, it was going along as an adventure story, more or less. And I didn't think anything, bad was going to happen. And there was a sort of a lightness in the style of it and everything. And it was just this big adventure, and then all of a sudden it just changed. And I think what I felt cheated of was the fact that it did change.
And yet, in some ways, the ending for the immigrants was almost too happy or too perfect. What do you?
No. Just the whole tone of the book.
Mm-hmm.
It just seemed to be very lighthearted, and then it wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for what was coming,
Yeah, I wanted the adventure to go
Although
on.
it start with the death of her husband.
Okay, one of you first. Adele.
Okay, I wanted the adventure to go on. What happened to the llamas? What happened to the motel, etc.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they're at the psychiatrist's office, and bingo, the next page, she commits suicide.
Yeah.
I didn't have any warning about that coming.
No, that was it.
But you don't.
Right.
In life, you don't have warning about suicide usually.
Yeah.
And everything that you both have said just reemphasizes to me how much this book is like life.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Exactly.
I agree, because life changes on a dime. Like it can be lighthearted, and then it can all of a sudden gets very serious. And I think that
just even the adventure with the sisters, it was very lighthearted, and then all of a sudden that happened. But, you know, with someone who is that depressed, I think that, you know, I don't think that you know, if it's going to happen or when it's going to happen. Unfortunately, lots of times it does.
So I was also then imagining, so was she bipolar? Or,
Oh, I think so. I believe so.
Even though the sisters had diagnosed her, I didn't trust their capacity to make the diagnosis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no.
They're not exactly objective.
No.
But it seemed to indicate she had trouble with taking drugs for most of her adult life, didn't it?
Yeah. And she had stopped taking her meds, and yeah.
It wasn't surprising or anything. I just thought the way the book was going that it wasn't going to go that way.
Yeah.
Well, that's life.
Yeah, I too want to put out an APB on the llamas. I'm concerned. Or alpacas, whatever they were. Oh, those poor things. Oh my.
I thought that just one of the things that made me chuckle was in the very end when she was trying to get, what was his name? Mario and Estella back, you know, kind of hoping that they would get together. So she has the video game on the television and she had it in the Spanish language so they would come to her house and use it. I thought that was a cute little thing that the author threw in there to really make it kind of like, okay, that's cool, you know. She was kind.
And that's so true these days, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes.
It's all about
Definitely.
video games.
Video games. What else did I write?
Yeah, she was always trying to be helpful, and yet she was considered the selfish one.
Of the sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even with her husband, remember they were good cop, bad cop. She was the bad cop. He was the good cop. They was had in situations, that's how their roles went. So she saw herself differently after he died than she did while he was alive.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Mm-hmm.
I think she was a reluctant heroine. You know, she questioned whether or not she should be doing everything, but then she'd do it.
Yeah,
I think that's where the title comes in.
Yes.
That also.
Afterlife.
She created an afterlife that surprised her.
Yeah,
Her afterlife, yeah.
Yeah, I wrote something down that I thought was a very interesting point to think about, where Antonia says, only way to not let people she loved die forever is to embody what she loved about them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that was very interesting. There was a lot of stuff to think about.
It is.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting how the sisters, and this is so common, but you kind of get pigeonholed into being, you know, everybody's got this picture that they've taken of you and that's who you are, you know, and the idea that she was selfish I thought was interesting because for me, I kind of saw her as more of an introverted person who was very thoughtful and, you know, wasn't this, you know, more boisterous personality. And probably being together with her sisters would be crazy, you know. So for her to kind of, she's just more of a reserved person. And so therefore, you know, she's the one who's, you know, kind of off doing her own thing, that kind of thing. And I just thought, it's just interesting how those family dynamics go, how you get pigeonholed into being, or typecast into being something that you're really not, but just because you're different, you know, in some ways than your brothers and sisters are. So.
Yeah, I'm the second, just like she is. Oh. But I have two sisters, not three.
And where are you in the birth order?
Second.
In the middle, okay.
Yeah. Anyone else think birth order makes a difference?
Yes.
Yes.
We definitely do.
Yeah, I think so.
Is he being the oldest?
And going back.
Sorry, go on.
Well, I say even going back to memories, I'm 10 years older than my brother. So things that I remember from growing up in the city of Chicago back in the 50s, or, you know, late 40s and 50s, he hasn't got a clue that what our family used to do, kind of thing, you know. So even those memories out there. True.
And I was going to say, Izzy being the oldest one, I don't see birth order like that. It's usually the youngest that's a little bit more mixed up, loose.
Yep.
The oldest one is always the sort of surrogate mother of the group.
The responsible one, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Or is expected to take on responsibility, more responsibility.
Yeah. So I sort of felt that was a little bit off in the writing, but I don't know what her own family is like.
I thought that was very realistic. I have a very good friend who is the older sister, who is Izzy of her family. And it's almost like in that case, the stress of being told to be the responsible one and to be the one is what caused it. So for me personally, Izzy was really believable.
Right.
What about the way she would just go places and do things without like telling anyone? Or, you know, she seemed to pivot on a dime to something new. Or what was she traveling to get the llamas and then changed her mind? Or how did that all work? I can't.
Yeah, and established a colony or something of writers in Western Massachusetts. I don't even remember what she was trying to do, but
if you're bipolar, that's
right.
Exactly.
Right. And if you know, if you're brilliant, you're creative, you have all these ideas, but then that turns on a dime too if you're bipolar. So I can see, you know, very scattered, you know, like you have an idea and then it just goes another different way. Right. So I think that was hard for the sisters to deal with, like you said, because that's not really a quote, you know, normal way to behave, run around to all these different, doing all these crazy things. So I have another comment to make. I have a friend, a teacher friend whose husband, the neighbor called her and said, your husband is slumped over a bush. He was mowing the lawn and he had a heart attack and died. And she never got to talk to him. You know, and I've thought about that so often. And I think in this book, you know, she didn't get a chance to see him. You know, he died, you know, without her. She never got a chance to talk to him again. I think that's a huge emotional event. You know, it's hard enough to have a spouse die, but if you never get to talk to them, communicate with them again. And in the book, I mean, the title Afterlife is like, you know, what, you know, after he dies, what is your life? You know, and it changed so much for her. And maybe even at her sisters looking at her as, you know, like you said, differently, maybe because she was married and maybe after he was gone, she, you know, had to respond differently, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's very real. It's a very real book. And since that happened, you know, to someone I know, you're just like, wow. I mean, I just can't imagine the feelings that you would have. So.
That's why I was surprised to read that the real husband is still alive.
Well, maybe she does know somebody that it happened to.
Well, good.
Yeah, that could be.
I don't know.
Yeah. And that's why she kept up the conversations with him in her head.
Yeah.
Because she has got to actually do that, you know.
Right.
And so she had that great empathy with him. But what do you think about Mario and is it his old-fashioned values or modern values where he rejected the girl? Should he have rejected her? Shouldn't he? What do you think about that whole storyline?
Well, that was a twist, I thought, that you weren't expecting too. I thought. I mean,
but there was a realism to that, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't totally surprised.
Yeah. I think that was predictable. His initial reaction I thought was totally predictable.
A lot of male pride, especially when you're young, instead of thinking about her as this immigrant who's now helpless in the country. It's kind of like, well, that isn't my baby, so therefore, you know. So.
Did you think the ending was too? I thought the ending was a little too nice. Were they going back? Is that and they had to get immigration?
Yeah, she actually paid to set him up in a business. She went with him to the Dominican Republic and paid to set him up in a business there. So yeah,
was that a little
it was
too
a good,
funny, maybe?
a nice ending. Yeah.
Yeah. Does that happen these days? Wouldn't they end up, you know, in some sort of place on the border instead?
Yeah, really.
Who knows what's going on these days? I was kind of interested to look at the actual map again and to see where all of these places are. These, has anyone, I'm sure you have better geography skills than I do, but I think I have it. Let me see if I have it on the desktop here. It's just kind of interesting because she was distinguishing how she is this, no, I don't know if I have it. Let me check here. She was distinguishing how she's from Dominican Republic, but look at all these countries. So
Yeah.
how close they are, and we're just off here is Miami,
Right.
Cuba, Haiti, Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico. And it's just so strange how Puerto Rico is part of our country, but you know, all these other places are so different and so close.
Yeah.
So, don't you think so?
Well,
Yeah,
depending on who governed them in the old days. You know, the French had these guys, and the English took these islands, and then so yeah, it depends on who had them, who governed them. That's part of what happened, I think.
Yeah, and the politics today is so different. Has anyone traveled in any of those islands?
Well, I've been to Cuba a few years ago, and it was on a Rhodes Scholar program, and I listened to lectures from a variety of people and met a lot of people in the community. And when I left Cuba, I still didn't know exactly what their life was about. You know, it's really interesting. But of course, the Cubans had a lot of hope when Obama was president. They thought that, you know, maybe their life would change for the better. But I was there maybe a year after Trump was elected, and boy, that made quite a difference in the relationship between the U.S. and Cuba. So who knows what's going to happen in the future? But it is sad. Cuba is so close, and
So poor.
Going back to the ending and the neatly way she wrapped up something so easily, did anybody wonder whether Mario had the skills to run a business? I mean, he was doing something with tractor maintenance, but I'm not sure he learned that at Rogers Dairy. As nearly as all I could figure out, he was mucking out barns and milking cows. That part didn't quite hang together, that he could manage a business.
Yeah, what was the business going to be again? Was it
something like machine maintenance or something?
Machinery maintenance. Yeah, I think it was machinery maintenance. Well, you don't know what he was in Dominican Republic before he came to Rogers either. So, you know, maybe he did have
True.
you don't know where capitalism is going to take a lot of the islands.
No,
So
I
that's the
thought
hope.
he was I didn't see him as a Dominican. I thought he was Mexican.
I think he was. Yeah, I think they were Mexican.
Yeah, he was.
So not only is she sending him back to a culture he's not familiar with, but to do a business that he may or may not have the skills to do.
The fact that she traveled back there with them, because she mentioned that in the end, I have the feeling that they're going to be dependent on her for a while.
Yeah, that she was going to go for the wedding, I think, when they finally did get married. And the
At
baptism,
least they have the language.
she would have the language, yes.
At least they have. Yeah.
It takes a lot to run a business.
Well,
You know, it's interesting. A few months ago, Arlen mentioned the book Valentine, and I did read that book, and it takes place Texas Mexican families. And you know, the interesting thing in that book, in the end, the protagonists go back to Mexico. And so that's interesting. You know, you always think, you come to America and the better life, and you know, everything is going to be wonderful. But I think some of the people that immigrate here realize that maybe it isn't so wonderful, and maybe home isn't as bad. I don't know. But it was interesting that the ending in both of the books was went back to Mexico.
A lot of Mexicans in Door County that I've come in contact with are here to earn money to support their family.
Yes.
Yeah, very definitely.
They go home to Mexico as in a much more elevated position and provide for their what they earn mucking and mucking out stables. Like a lot of farmhands that work in county go home to Mexico and bring their families there. And it's so they don't workers don't necessarily always immigrate to stay here. They immigrate they come to earn money.
Yeah, and on a personal note, on my father's side, I am a first generation American. And he always spoke about when he retired, he was going to return to the country of origin, which was Switzerland. However, when that first grandchild appeared, that plan went out the window. And he stayed the rest of his years in the United States. So that was always his plan, to go back. It just never happened.
And from studying genealogy and history, I think that was actually the plan of many of the people who came to the country over history. So it's kind of interesting to think of that. So many of them didn't go back.
No, and the reason I suspect was that the family ties became so tight. It was just like overnight, my dad's plans changed.
Well, in reverse, I have one of my friends married a Moroccan, and she's now got grandchildren there. So even though sometimes we spend a lot of time on WhatsApp communicating because she feels she likes that connection, she's embedded in Morocco now. She's not coming back. And these days she can't even travel here.
Yeah, that's right.
She wouldn't be able to go back home, apparently.
Is that right?
Yeah, because many countries aren't allowing Americans in.
Right, with COVID. Yeah.
Go from the virus.
Most countries.
Or COVID, yeah.
Yeah, so it's all chaotic right now. Well, does anyone have much more to say about this book, or?
Well,
I thought, like everyone else, I thought it was a darn good read. It was just a great book, many ways.
I'm glad we stumbled on it. It was one of those in the list that had easily available ebook copies when the whole virus thing hit. So that's why I chose it from Hoopla. But it turned out to be really an interesting book. I really enjoyed it. I've been telling my sisters they have to read it.
Yeah. Just a good one.
I'm going to go back and read her previous books for sure, the ones I missed.
Yes.
And she's pretty prolific. She's written nonfiction, fiction, poetry, books for adults, for young adults and children. She hadn't written anything for adults for 15 years or so. When she wrote this one. So that's quite a background. One place I read said she was one of the most prolific Latina authors. Is that how they would pronounce it?
Latina, yeah.
Yes. So, she's really produced a lot, and she writes very well in English, of course. But has everyone seen the list then for the next book, which was Remarkable Creatures? We had planned on that one and it got postponed.
Yes.
I'm on the list to get one.
I'm supposed to pick it up and I'll read it fast and get it back. I'll be fast.
And I think we've done books by that author before also. I forget what
Yes.
ones we did, but she's another really good, stable, one of the big authors that have been read repeatedly in our group, I think. But and the other books, as I said, they put them all on the library website. I hope every time I make a list, I have one idea of what the books might be like, and they don't always turn out to be what I think they're going to be.
Yeah.
But some
That's
of them are
life.
really, really memorable. Some of the ones I didn't expect to be are really memorable. I hope you're all enjoying them. If you ever want to see the list, it's on our library website. I actually updated it recently. It goes back to like 1994. And there's a link to something called Reader's Resources. So that is where you can find the whole list going way back.
Way back.
Remarkable.
On where? How do you do that?
It's on our library website. Do you want me to show you again?
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know
just to find the list from, wait.
Did some people come in
okay.
late after I showed how to get to the meetings? So there's our, this is storecountylibrary.org. Here is where we have all of the book clubs for the county. So not just here in Sturgeon Bay, but the other ones also. And I recently updated ours here with links to the books in the InfoSoup catalog. And then if you go back here, Reader's Resources, this is kind of a fun place. I've mainly made this up, but other people have added to it. Here's our multicultural.
Oh,
Wow.
okay. Nice.
Way back. How about
Look
that?
at that.
Look at
Oh,
that.
wow.
So if you ever want to find a book to read, it's a look.
Reading for life.
And there's some other good links here. I'd recommend just poking around at it. Like I really like a blog called The Millions, I don't know, and the Electric Company. I put my favorite ones here. We're doing for Door County Reads. Is everyone aware we're doing the book Station 11? And the author,
Yes.
John Mandel, writes for this blog, The Millions. They have some really good lists of books that are expected out every in the future 6 months. So I always go there to order books because they're always very interesting books. And the way to get to any of our meetings is through the calendar, as I showed you in the beginning. Here's our book group, our book here.
Right.
And then I also put links to the ones below here. So you can actually just click on Remarkable Creatures, and there's something about that. The links are not up yet, but they will be before the program. And here, when we voted, we had a choice between the two books, Station 11 or her newer one, The Glass Hotel, and everyone seemed to want to do Station 11. But if you're interested in The Glass Hotel, I believe that the Egg Harbor group will be doing a comparison of The Glass Hotel. And,
They are because in Egg Harbor, we've already read Station 11.
yeah. And the author is scheduled to do some talks with us virtually. It'll be something like, I don't know that it's pinned down, but it'll be sometime like February 11th or sometime in there. So yeah, we're, as usual, gathering a bunch of interesting programs, and we'll have a bunch of book discussions. So I hope you can maybe go to more than one. You're welcome to go to more than one and see what people think in different parts of the county. So has anyone read the book then besides Trissa? Have you read it?
Yeah, I have. Long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the book.
It's very interesting.
I really like it, and
It's very timely.
yeah, we actually
Yeah.
way before this whole virus hit, so we didn't plan that on purpose. And I read it when it came out in 2014, but I'm redoing it now, and it's amazing how you sort of see it differently once you've been through the experiences we have right now. So I think it'll be an interesting book to discuss or to talk about. So that'll be the end of January. We'll, of course, the friends will be handing out copies of the book, so be sure you get a hold of yours. Come in right away when they start because they do go quickly. So, and
I'm gonna selfishly say that I hope that we can continue to do Zoom because starting with next month's meeting, I'll be back down in Florida. So I hope we can keep doing this. I know it's hard for others, but I enjoy being able to be part of the group. So that's good.
I'm in Florida right now, so it works just fine.
And my understanding is that I don't think the library will be doing any in-house programming for a while now. So I think we will probably, at least through the winter, be doing things. So I'm glad you all are able to make it and know how to log in. Sometimes
we're getting smart.
Yeah.
We're getting better.
We're all getting used to this.
Yep, exactly.
It does give us empathy for those little 6, 7, 8-year-olds who have to be virtually in school all day long, doesn't it? We understand what they're going through. We understand their pain.
They're really good at it though.
Much better than
No, they're not. No, they're not.
Oh, yes, they are. I taught kindergarten. 5-year-olds can go. Believe me.
I know children that are really upset about it.
No, I didn't mean that. I just meant technologically they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I get it. I get that. Yeah, of course. Who wouldn't want to be with your peers?
Yes,
I told my grandchildren that I learned to type when I was in high school. I don't know if any of you experienced
Sure.
Yes.
I think when my kids were small, they were learning in about 3rd grade or something, and now they learn when they're preschool. They're learning to do the touch screen. So they're adapting pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah.
Well, does anyone else have anything to say? Otherwise, we might wrap it up because we're a little under an hour here, but
that's okay.
Enjoy your
Wonderful
next
to see all of you.
going to your next.
I just want
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Good to see you all.
Laura.
thank you.
See you next time.
This was a great selection.
Bye.
Bye.